Everything began with a chain of events that felt almost like fate. I am Veronica Coleman, 35, with a PhD in botany, specializing in mycology. Precision, independence, and methodical work have always defined me. Right now, I'm in the midst of the most important project of my career, researching plastic degrading fungi. Funded by a nearly $1.5 million USDA grant that could transform environmental cleanup. The project required forming an LLC and battling the city council for proper zoning approvals. 8 months of bureaucratic struggle later, I prevailed. My greatest asset made it all possible: an old farm left to me by my grandparents, tucked in a quiet suburban area where neighbors keep to themselves and regulations are flexible. I used a significant portion of the grant to renovate the original greenhouse into a federal grade by a safety level 2 lab dot from the outside. It's a stunning Victorian-style conservatory, all glass and graceful curves in a classic cruciform layout. The beauty was intentional. I wanted a workspace that inspired me daily. But inside, it's serious science. Negative pressure systems hum quietly. Humidity sensors measure decimals. Temperature stays stable within half a degree Fahrenheit. Thousands of neurospore samples lie dormant, waiting for perfect conditions that could change the world. Legally, the land is mine, but the contents? Every spore, piece of equipment, and data point belongs to the federal government. The USDA doesn't mess around, and neither do I. Normally, I have an assistant named Amy, working regular office hours to handle data entry and basic monitoring. She's competent and reliable, but takes weekends off, leaving me alone with the automated systems on Saturdays and Sundays that my family has never understood what I do. My parents, Robert and Linda Coleman, are retired civil servants who spent decades pushing papers. My sister Tiffany, 29, considers herself a social media influencer, though her following says otherwise. To them, my work has always been playing in the dirt or growing plants. They never learn the difference between a greenhouse and a federal research lab. 5 months ago, the family dynamics shifted in a way that should have been a warning. During Sunday dinner, my mother cornered me with what she thought was a brilliant idea. "Veronica, honey," she said in that tone that always precedes trouble. "Tiffany and I have been talking about her wedding venue." I kept eating, hoping this was just theoretical. "That conservatory of yours," she continued, "it looks so natural, so upper-class trendy. All that glass and ironwork. Perfect for a wedding. Very Instagram-worthy." My fork froze. "Mom, absolutely not." "But sweetie, no," I said firmly. I put down my utensils. "That space isn't a party venue. It's a federal research lab with live biological materials, biohazards, contamination protocols, laws." My father leaned forward, patronizing like only decades in municipal office can perfect. "Now, Veronica, don't you think you're being dramatic? It's just plants." "It's not just plants, Dad," I said. "These are genetically modified organisms. Mishandling them could be dangerous. The space is under federal jurisdiction. I could lose everything, my career, my funding, everything." Tiffany, scrolling through her phone, finally looked up. "Come on, Ronnie. It's my wedding. Family should come first." "Family doesn't ask family to commit federal crimes," I shot back. I explained the negative pressure systems, contamination risks, and federal oversight in terms even they could understand. When they nodded and changed the subject, I assumed they had grasped the seriousness. I thought they respected my work enough to accept my refusal. I was wrong. My fatal flaw has always been craving family validation. Despite their dismissiveness and lack of understanding, I wanted their approval. I wanted them to see I wasn't just a weird daughter playing in dirt. I was a scientist making a real impact. That weakness blinded me to what was coming. According to the schedule they gave me, Tiffany's wedding was still 3 weeks away. They had been showing me venue photos, asking for input on flowers, treating me like part of the celebration. I even started considering what dress to wear as her bridesmaid. The reality was devastating. The wedding was actually 2 weeks away. They had lied about the date from the start, ensuring I wouldn't be present at my own sister's wedding. Worse, the deception created the perfect opportunity for their plan, the week before the wedding, which I still believed was 3 weeks away. My parents arrived at my lab with what seemed like a peace offering. "Surprise," my mother said, waving an envelope like magic. "We got you something special." Inside was a 3-day, 2-night retreat package at Mountain Vista Eco Lodge, nestled 3 hours north in the mountains. "We want you to truly rest," my father said warmly. "You need to be at your best for Tiffany's wedding." My mother nodded enthusiastically. I found this while searching for honeymoon spots. The reviews are amazing: digital detox, nature walks, meditation. "You work so hard, honey. You deserve this." The lodge looked serene, all wood and stone surrounded by pine trees, with promises of organic meals and sunrise yoga. The timing seemed reasonable. My project was in incubation. The system mostly ran itself, sending updates to my phone. Everything had battery backup and a generator. 3 days away could be framed as responsible self-care. "Really think I should go?" I asked. "Absolutely," my mother replied. "Consider it our gift. We want our bridesmaid radiant and relaxed." The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I packed my car at noon Friday, hiking boots, a novel I'd been meaning to read, and left. Amy locked the lab at 5 p.m., activating weekend security protocols. For the first time in months, genuine relaxation washed over me. For 72 hours, I had nothing to do but myself. I had no idea that during that same 72 hours, my conservatory would be transformed into a nightmare dot at 6 p.m. Friday, 1 hour after Amy left. My parents began executing their plan with the precision of career bureaucrats who understood manipulation. They had found the perfect locksmith cash only. No questions asked Dot when he arrived at my front gate. Robert positioned himself near the locked entrance while Linda held her phone at the right angle for a video call. On the screen appeared Tiffany, playing her role perfectly. "Hi, sorry about this," Tiffany said, her voice sweet, rehearsed, with just the right blend of embarrassment and urgency. "I'm the homeowner," Tiffany said, "but I'm stuck out of town on a business trip for the next 10 days. These are my parents, and they need to get inside to feed my parrot before the poor thing starves." She held her phone closer to the camera, flashing what looked like a driver's license, though the locksmith was far too distant to read the details. "I can give you my address, my full name, whatever you need to verify. I just really need someone to cut that lock so they can get inside." The locksmith studied my parents, who radiated exactly the kind of concerned, middle-class respectability that signals trustworthiness. My father wore his favorite golf polo, the one that made him look like a man who absolutely owned property and responsibly paid taxes. My mother clutched her purse with both hands, making anxious comments about the poor bird. "And to make this right," my father added, already pulling out his wallet, "we'd like to pay you to install a brand new lock when you're finished. Something stronger than this old one. My daughter deserves proper security." The locksmith accepted every word without hesitation. Why wouldn't he? They were offering double pay, had apparent permission from the homeowner on video, and looked exactly like the kind of people who would drive across town to rescue a starving pet. Within 20 minutes, my front gate swung open, but the real violation had only just begun. Once inside the property, they walked directly toward the conservatory and encountered what should have stopped them instantly: large, bright yellow warning signs posted at every entrance. "Warning: Federal Research Site, Biohazard, authorized personnel only, protective equipment, required dot instead of fear or recognition. I later learned my mother scoffed. "Robert, look at this nonsense," she said with open disdain. "That girl always exaggerates. Take these down, they're hideous. How are we supposed to take wedding photos with these eyesores everywhere?" That was the moment their plan crossed from trespassing into something far more serious, willful sabotage of federal safety warnings. But in their minds, they were simply removing their dramatic daughter's unnecessary decorations. My father systematically pulled down every single sign and stacked them behind the tool shed, safely hidden from view. Then together, they located the main electrical panel and shut off the security camera system. "There," my mother said, brushing dust from her hands. "Now we can work in peace." The next call was to Tiffany. I can only imagine the triumph in her voice when she answered. "We've secured the garden house," my father announced. Tiffany immediately contacted her event planning company, the same one she'd been stringing along for weeks telling. Then the venue was finally confirmed and awaiting setup. Within minutes, crews were scheduled to arrive Saturday morning. 3 hours north in the mountains, I was settling into my eco-lodge retreat, blissfully unaware of the catastrophe unfolding. The lodge delivered everything promised: rustic comfort, organic meals, activities designed to disconnect guests from stress. I attended evening meditation, ate dinner by candlelight, and went to bed feeling content. Before sleeping, I checked my systems one last time. Using the lodge's Wi-Fi, I opened the monitoring app. The camera system showed signal loss, but that wasn't unusual. The wireless cameras occasionally dropped connection due to weather. More importantly, all biological indicators were perfect. Temperature stable, humidity optimal, air pressure normal, CO levels well within parameters. I reassured myself it was just a camera glitch. Everything else was operating flawlessly. I went to sleep believing my conservatory was secure. I had no way of knowing those normal readings were about to be violently disrupted by human interference. Saturday morning marked the full-scale invasion. The event crew arrived at exactly 8 a.m. 3 trucks filled with professionals, trained to transform spaces into wedding venues. When they saw my conservatory, they were genuinely impressed. "This is incredible," the lead coordinator told my parents. "Victorian architecture, natural light, those iron frames, your daughter has exquisite taste." My mother beamed as if she'd designed it herself. We knew it would be perfect for Tiffany's special day. The crew moved efficiently, experts in weddings, but completely ignorant of biosafety protocols. They had no idea they were preparing a celebration inside an active federal research facility housing genetically modified organisms. The cruciform design made their work almost effortless. The central intersection, specifically engineered as the main ventilation hub, became the obvious choice for the stage. They installed the DJ booth and dance floor directly over the negative pressure system that worked hardest to maintain safe airflow. My photosynthesis lamps, calibrated for specific fungal wavelengths, were repurposed as fantastic stage lighting under my mother's enthusiastic direction. The south wing, where I prepared soil samples and stored equipment, became a buffet and bar. The north wing, home to dense climbing vines grown for plant-fungal symbiosis, was turned into the altar. Fake white flowers were attached to living specimens, creating what the crew believed was a romantic natural backdrop. By 10 a.m. Sunday, the transformation was complete. My scientific sanctuary now looked like a luxury wedding venue, worthy of any bridal magazine. Tiffany had arranged end camera angles to livestream the entire event. This wasn't just a wedding, it was content. She expected sponsorship deals, brand offers, and viral success from what she marketed as the most exclusive secret venue imaginable. Everything looked perfect. None of them realized they had created ideal conditions for a biological crisis. At 11 a.m. Sunday, the ceremony began. The guest list read like a directory of influence, elite attorneys, high net worth investors, and most critically, the groom's CEO, a man whose approval shaped entire careers. 150 guests filled my conservatory, not including staff and crews. These weren't ordinary attendees. These were exactly the people Tiffany needed to launch her influencer career. Her live stream had already exceeded expectations. Over 300,000 concurrent viewers tuned in. The irony was devastating. The more successful the event appeared, the greater the impending consequences. Beneath the elegance, disaster was forming. The fungi I studied weren't dangerous under normal conditions, but my monitoring systems tracked one critical risk: under anaerobic stress or elevated CO levels. These organisms produced a mild hallucinogen as a defense response. When threatened, they released compounds designed to disorient intruders. The wedding guests unknowingly created the perfect storm when the DJ began blasting heavy bass. The sound waves reverberated through the glass structure. When 150 people began breathing in unison inside what had effectively become a sealed environment, carbon dioxide levels climbed at an alarming rate. When the space was converted into a dance floor, crucial ventilation vents were blocked by staging and equipment. The air filtration system I had spent months perfecting was rendered useless. The result was catastrophic. A closed system where fungal spores became trapped and concentrated while CO accumulated to dangerous thresholds. The organisms I had carefully cultivated suddenly found themselves in the precise conditions that triggered their most ancient survival response. The spore release began invisibly and silently, with the ruthless efficiency of millions of years of evolution. Stage 1 was euphoria. At first, guests felt what they assumed was joy magnified by celebration. Music sounded richer. Colors appeared unnaturally vivid. Emotion surged far beyond ordinary happiness. Tiffany, glowing in her Vera Wang gown, danced wildly in front of the primary livestream camera. Her cheeks flushed with what viewers believed was bridal bliss as she laughed into the lens. "This is the most magical wedding ever," she shouted. "The energy in here is unreal." The online audience responded instantly. Hearts flooded the screen. Comments praised the venue, the dress, the happiness radiating from everyone present. For 30 beautiful, horrifying minutes, it appeared Tiffany had achieved everything she had ever wanted. Then stage 2 arrived. Irritation. The transition was abrupt and terrifying. Joy curdled into discomfort as guests began feeling an intense sensation beneath their skin, like thousands of ants crawling just below the surface. It started subtly. A scratch. A rub. Then it escalated rapidly. Guests in tailored suits and couture gowns clawed at their arms, necks, and faces. Perfect hairstyles unraveled as people raked their fingers through their scalps. Makeup smeared as decorum collapsed under the overwhelming need to scratch. The livestream audience watched in confusion as celebration devolved into something deeply unsettling. Comments shifted. "Is this normal? Why is everyone itching? Something feels wrong." But the worst was still coming. Stage 3 brought hallucination and chaos. When spore concentration peaked, reality shattered inside the conservatory. The mild hallucinogen intensified into a full-scale psychedelic episode, shaped by each individual's deepest fears. In the VIP section, the groom's CEO, a man famous for control and authority, lay flat on his back, making swimming motions with his arms. In his mind, he floated peacefully in a warm California ocean, calling out about dolphins and perfect waves. At the altar, Tiffany's dream collapsed into horror. The bouquet in her hands transformed into a grinning skull whispering her name. Her Vera Wang dress, the one she had saved for 2 years to afford, seemed alive, writhing around her body. She screamed, convinced a massive albino python was constricting her chest. Stealing her breath dot in front of 300,000 livestream viewers, she began tearing the gown apart, shredding silk and lace while screaming about snakes only she could see. Across the conservatory, other guests fought invisible enemies. Some watched the walls melt like wax. Others fled predators that didn't exist. Near the buffet, a group became convinced the food was alive, that the elegant appetizers were insects, waiting to crawl into their mouths. Panic became total. Guests surged toward the exits. But my conservatory's triple-layered tempered glass installed for security and climate stability would not break. They were trapped inside a transparent prison. A glass fishbowl filled with toxic spores and screaming, people clawing at invisible threats. The livestream audience watched in horror as 150 people descended into synchronized madness. Emergency calls flooded dispatch centers as viewers realized this wasn't performance art or spectacle. It was real. The Victorian conservatory I loved had become a glass tomb, filled with hallucinating wedding guests trapped in a poison they had unknowingly unleashed. And miles away in the mountains, completely unaware, I was about to receive the call that would change everything at exactly noon. Just as the chaos reached its peak, I finished my final activity at Mountain Vista Eco Lodge and began driving down the winding mountain road. For 3 days, I had lived in blissful ignorance hiking trails, meditating, reading by the fireplace. The digital detox had worked perfectly. I felt calm, centered, ready to write my USDA progress report. Then cell service returned. My phone exploded with life. Emergency alerts screamed from the monitoring app: critical temperature spike, extreme CO levels, pressure failure, contamination alert. But it was the missed calls that made my hands tremble. 47 calls from Amy, 16 voicemails. Text messages growing more frantic by the minute. I pulled over at a scenic overlook and listened to Amy's messages in order. Hey, Veronica, it's Amy. Something's off with the Garden app. Can you call me back? 9:30 am concerned, controlled. Veronica, please pick up. The readings are spiking. CO is dangerously high. I'm driving over now. 10:15 I'm a panic creeping in. Oh my God, Veronica. There are cars everywhere. There's a wedding happening inside your lab. People are acting strange. You need to watch the live stream. 10:45 her voice breaking. You have to see this. It's your sister's wedding. People are losing it. Please call me back. 11:38 barely coherent, with shaking hands. I opened social media and searched Tiffany's account. What I saw was hell broadcasting, live from the place I had devoted my life to protecting. Elegant guests writhed on the floor, scratching like animals. My sister sat in a corner, her ruined dress pulled around her, sobbing at horrors only she could see. The groom's CEO continued swimming through an invisible ocean. Police cars surrounded my property. My conservatory, my career, my life's work, all collapsing in real time.
Officers remained at a safe distance, fully aware they were out of their depth. No protective gear, no understanding of the threat. If they entered, they would become victims themselves. The live stream comments section was chaos incarnate. Viewers demanding explanations, speculating about gas leaks or terrorism, repeatedly calling emergency services. Someone had pinned my sister's location. People were sharing the address with urgent warnings about a potential mass poisoning. Watching the disaster unfold on a small phone screen, the sting of betrayal gave way to clarity. I alone understood the danger. Those spores and the measured concentrations could affect anyone without proper protection. The local police were brave but unprepared. Emergency medical teams would walk into a contamination zone. If spores spread outside the conservatory, on clothing, in respiratory systems, we could be facing a full community health crisis. More than that, I was legally responsible. Every organism, piece of equipment, and data point in that facility was federal property. Under the USDA grant, I was a designated steward. Every spore, every petri dish, every log. My accountability was absolute under federal law. I had two choices. Let this unfold to preserve my career and family ties, or act according to my training and conscience. My hands were steady for the first time all day as I dialed the emergency number memorized during my USDA training, a number I never expected to use. USDA Emergency Response. This is Dr. Martinez. This is Dr. Veronica Coleman. Project ID UMR 4471B. I need to report a dangerous level biorelease at my authorized facility. Hold, please, Dr. Coleman. I'm transferring you to the CDC Emergency Response Team. The next voice was crisp, professional, terrifyingly efficient. Dr. Coleman, this is Agent Mary Smith, CDC. We need your location, the organisms involved, and immediate contamination scope. I relayed everything. Project codes, fungal strains, estimated spore concentrations from my app, number of people exposed, and the live stream link for real-time assessment. Based on your report, we're implementing Level 3 containment protocols. Federal response teams are en route. Do not enter the contaminated area. You will report to the Field Command Center for debriefing. Your cooperation will be noted in our investigation. Hanging up, I understood. I had just saved lives, the police, my family, everyone nearby. But I had also triggered the most extensive federal investigation my field had ever seen. My career? Over. My family? In jeopardy. Everything I worked for my entire adult life was on the brink of destruction. The mountain air that felt so crisp now seemed thin. I started my car, descending toward the disaster I had unknowingly left behind. My life as Dr. Veronica Coleman, the respected scientist, the loyal daughter, was gone. What awaited me at the bottom was something else entirely. Sirens cut through the valley as I approached. Behind the police barricade, my property was unrecognizable. Guests who had danced a moment ago were now corralled on the lawn like confused cattle, wrapped in emergency blankets, some still twitching from the neurospore effects. Nobody could leave. "Ma'am, you'll need to come with us," a detective said, appearing at my elbow. Badge read Morrison. He looked exhausted, like this was already the strangest case of his career. "I haven't been on the property in 2 days." I said flatly, "Check the security footage." "We will, but you're coming with us." 3 black helicopters descended over the conservatory. A convoy of black SUVs followed, bearing federal seals, CDC, USDA, Homeland Security. My mother's face, visible through the crowd of blanket-wrapped guests, had gone pale. "Your family claims they didn't know about the hazards," Morrison said. I laughed bitterly. "Detective, I have 12 years of text from my mother complaining about my weird mushroom house. Emails warning them not to enter, without gear. Even a family dinner recording where my father mocked my research. They knew. They just didn't care. The spores release. Your assistant says they aren't dangerous to the ecosystem." "They aren't," I admitted. "The neuroreactive compounds break down in open air within hours. But in a sealed space with high CO2 and base vibrations, it's like a hallucinogenic bomb. Temporary but intense. Physically, they'll be fine. Emotionally, the live stream alone, my sister ripping her Vera Wang gown, the CEO swimming on the grass, 146 people traumatized in front of 300,000 viewers, will last far longer. They released me just after midnight. No charges. My mother, father, and Tiffany? Not so lucky. The federal government descended like a storm. I never attended the proceedings, but Amy sent the court documents as they became public. United States Department of Agriculture versus Coleman Family Estate. Count 1, destruction of federal research property. Every warning sign removed. Federal property, tampering with a research site. Count 2, risk of biological release. Potential contamination triggered mandatory federal response. Ignorance was not an excuse. Restitution demands arrived. Grant repayment, $1,500,000. Project contaminated. Government wanted every penny. Environmental cleanup. $250,000. Hazmat team destroyed furniture, excavated soil, sterilized a structure. Plant Protection Act fine, $500,000. Maximum penalty for removing biosafety signage. Total, $2,250,000. Homeowners insurance? Denied. Policy does not cover intentional criminal acts or federal violations. My father called. I let it go to voicemail. Deleted. Then came the guests, 150 furious, humiliated people. They hired class action attorneys. Medical costs. ER visits, antidotes, toxicology screenings, psychiatric evaluations, averaging $2,500 per person. 146 people times $2,500 equals $365,000. Property damage. Hazmat destroyed everything. Vera Wang dresses, Armani suits, Dior handbags, Rolexes, Italian shoes, gone. 146 guests times $10,000 equals $1,460,000. Emotional distress. Live stream went viral. Over 3 million views in 24 hours. The humiliation, chaos, and memes would last far longer than any physical cleanup. Memes exploded across social media. The CEO swimming on the lawn, my sister tearing her dress apart, a state senator crying over imaginary demons in the roses. These weren't just embarrassed guests. They were public figures, business leaders, and socialites whose reputations were worth millions. Emotional distress claims range from $50,000 to $100,000 per person, depending on public profile and viral humiliation. Estimated total, $10 million. I read the lawsuit documents in a Holiday Inn 40 miles away, unable to stomach being near the property. A cold satisfaction settled in my chest. They wanted a lavish wedding. They'd gotten a national scandal. 3 weeks later, all legal proceedings were consolidated. Total liability, $14,475,000. My parents didn't have that kind of money. Nobody in the family did. Tiffany's husband's law firm terminated him within 48 hours to avoid scandal. His Ivy League credentials and family connections meant nothing now. His career evaporated overnight. My parents had to sell the 4-bedroom colonial they'd lived in for 30 years, the one my mother had decorated with obsessive pride. The bank seized it for a fraction of its value. Even that wasn't enough to cover debts. They declared bankruptcy. But bankruptcy didn't erase restitution owed to the federal government. That debt would follow them forever, garnishing wages, seizing tax returns, haunting every financial decision. My sister and her husband divorced 6 weeks after the wedding. Marriage duration, less than 2 months. Her influencer career, built on aspirational content and envy, was finished. Nobody wanted to follow someone whose wedding had become a viral catastrophe. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. The bank officer applied the bright orange foreclosure seal to my parents' house. The thunk echoed like a punctuation mark ending 30 years of Coleman family history. I watched through my car windshield, engine running, unable to look away. I hadn't planned to come. I told myself I was done. But curiosity, or maybe the need for closure, pulled me here for one last look at the place where I'd grown up feeling like a disappointing footnote in someone else's story. My mother had planted roses along the walkway. They bloomed now, pink and white, oblivious to the chaos surrounding them, always more concerned with appearances than substance. The roses were beautiful. The family inside? Rotten. The house stood empty. Windows dark. The cheerful yellow paint my mother had insisted on last summer now looked garish and false. Pretty on the surface, hollow underneath. My phone buzzed. A message from Amy. The university confirmed your start date, August 15th. Congrats, Professor Coleman. Professor, not principal investigator, not lead researcher, on a $1.5 million federal grant. Just professor. A lecturer at a state university 3 states away, teaching undergraduates who probably thought fungi were just fuzzy things in their dorm fridges. I had lost everything. My conservatory, my dream, my decade-long research project. My professional reputation was tarnished. Officially, I'd been cleared, but whispers followed me. That's the researcher whose family destroyed a federal grant project, didn't secure her lab. Family drama contaminated millions in research. In academia, scandal is scandal. Victim or not, I had been soft. That was my crime. I'd known my family was selfish, manipulative, obsessed with appearances. I'd known they resented my success, thought my achievements embarrassing compared to Tiffany's Instagram perfect life. But I had never imagined they'd break into a federal research facility, remove biohazard warnings, and host a wedding in a BSL-2 lab just to save a venue fee. That failure of imagination had cost me everything. My phone buzzed again. News alert. Viral wedding disaster results in record lawsuit settlement. I didn't click it. I had lived it. My family had lost everything because of greed, because they valued appearances over integrity, convenience over responsibility, social status over basic human decency. They looked at my life's work and saw only a free venue, an inconvenient obstacle to their perfect wedding fantasy. I had lost the grant, the conservatory, my research, my career trajectory. They had lost far more: their home, savings, reputations, futures. Tiffany's marriage lasted less than a honeymoon. My father would never retire, paying restitution and compensation until his body gave out. My mother's curated family image, built over decades, incinerated in the flames of a wedding gone catastrophically wrong. The highway stretched west, sun painting the sky orange and purple. I'd packed everything into my car, and a small moving truck already en route to my new apartment. No furniture, destroyed in the conservatory. I had my clothes, books, diplomas, and laptop. Everything else was gone. Starting over meant starting with nothing. Nothing was better than being tied to people who would destroy everything I built for a venue rental fee. I merged onto the interstate, leaving behind the town, the family, and the dream project that consumed a decade of my life. Ahead, Prairie State University, a fresh start, and the faint possibility I might rebuild something worth keeping. They had lost everything because of greed. That was natural justice. And somehow, driving away from the wreckage, I felt lighter than I had in years.